again, I get a lot of the credit, but there's no bigger champion than these three people. Mayor Daley, Senator Durbin, and the person I'm going to introduce now. Because they understand that they have the microphone for what they want to say, but they also understand they have 42 department heads, et cetera, and can help preach that gospel. And every time we've ever asked for anything in the City Club, he said yes, and he's done it quickly. Governor Pat Quinn. Governor, why don't you come on up? Thank you so much.
I do believe in the City Club. I think this is really the best way to get ideas across to the people of our state and indeed our country. This is a great forum that I've participated in and many times. We even had I think the board down at the governor's mansion for dinner, and we will do that every year because I really appreciate everything that your board does and all those who are devoted to the City Club to encourage robust debate and discussion of ideas of our time. And it's important that that be heard, and this is the best way to do it. And I want to introduce a very good friend of mine who's going to be speaking today, Howard Tullman. He's an inventive person, an entrepreneurial person. He's exactly the kind of person we need more of in our state of Illinois. We're blessed to have Howard. He has an original mind. He understands the importance of taking risks. That second division baseball, that's no risk baseball. We want to have first division baseball. We want to be like the Blackhawks. We want to win the Stanley Cup. I was in Philadelphia there on Wednesday wearing Blackhawks colors in the middle of a sea of orange of Philadelphia Flyers. If you want to know what Daniel in the Lion's Den was like, that's what I experienced. But we prevailed. We prevailed because we took reasonable risks. And we had a team, and they played together. They didn't cut each other down. They worked together for the betterment of the common good. In a lot of ways, that's what Howard's all about. He takes reasonable risks on behalf of really important things. Bringing Kendall College to our city, giving it kind of a new birth on life, Howard Tullman. Starting Flashpoint Academy that I've had the honor of visiting and touring. It's really education of the 21st century, especially dealing with information and making sure that we really understand all the power of the internet and technology and broadband deployment. And linking up now with Tribeca, there's a great opportunity to grow jobs right here in our own backyard and train people for these very complex jobs of the 21st century. So that is really what Howard's all about, passing on to others information and training and teaching and learning that they must have in order to be successful in a very global economy that's very competitive. So I really think the world of Howard and wanted to come down here today to hear his words of wisdom for all of us. I think this is very important for the economy of Illinois. We've got to grow our economy in a way that is very competitive with the world and make sure that we're number one. We don't want anyone, anywhere to out-educate Illinois. That's why Chris Kennedy is here. He's the chairman of the board of the University of Illinois. I appointed Chris to that board. He's done a great job. And I know working with Howard, we're going to make sure Illinois is number one when it comes to jobs for the 21st century. Without further ado, come on forward, Howard Tullman.
Thank you, Governor. I want to take a minute to thank Jay and Norma, without whom I wouldn't be here. And I want to also take a minute to thank my wife, who's here, and who has suffered with me for 30 years of this. But she hasn't seen this talk. So I'm going to talk about social media. And you know, this is such a complex and extensive thing that I feel a little bit like a mosquito at a nudist camp. I don't know where to start. When we talk about social networking, about what's changing out there in the world, brand is no different than business. It's no different than your own image, your own story. And these are a few of the sort of overriding observations. And I want to say that attached to your chairs is a little bag, and in the bag are a list of all the websites I'm going to mention, so you don't really have to take notes on these, but I think there's some that you're definitely going to take a look at. So think of a world in which our brand, our business doesn't belong to us anymore. It's out there, and what's really critically important is that we be a part of these conversations that are taking place out there in the world about us, about whether it's politics, whether it's media, whether it's a school like Flashpoint, where every day we watch about 150 different websites to try and understand what people are saying just about our school. This is a conversation that you have to get out there and be a part of, and it has to be authentic. And to start, you have to figure out where the conversations are going and where they're going on. We live in a gossipy world, so a little bad pushes out a tremendous amount of good. This is one of the things we do with our about-to-be graduating students, is take a look at what their presence is on the web and ask them if this is really what they'd like an employer to see when they check them out. So, you know, they share. They probably overshare. And maybe in retrospect, when they're in the employment market, that's not the smartest thing that they could be doing. So again, what gets out there in the web stays there forever. It's almost impossible to remove. You need to be aware of that. You need to be a part of that. And basically, you need to use that as a forum to connect to both your existing and your prospective customers. And this is a very important thing. And the economics around this are pretty frightening. A lot of people say all the time that the web is trivial, or that Twitter is only 140 characters, things like this. We don't understand exactly yet, but in the aggregate, these are mountain-moving kinds of things. These are not trivial things at all. And the economics are pretty amazing. So what's really happened? Well, what's happened is that the water cooler conversation has now gone worldwide. And the other thing that you probably saw, that statistic, that nobody cares about advertising anymore. Nobody believes advertising anymore. We're moving from a search and an advertising culture to a peer recommendation culture, where I'm willing to take someone's word for it as long as it's someone that I trust and someone that I know. And the economics around that are pretty compelling, not only in terms of interacting with information and products and things like that, but in terms of spending, in terms of actual dollars. And we can demonstrate pretty convincingly that a business that does a good job of this is going to grow their business, they're going to grow their customer population, they're going to have those customers better and more tightly connected to them, and they're going to be in a position to increase the economics of those relationships. Because your existing customers, your existing students, your existing business partners, those are the lowest hanging fruit out there. And if you can get them to increase their connection with you, that's the singly most important thing that this whole new network of communications is really all about. So one of these questions is, where is the action, okay? And we hear these brand names, we hear all about Facebook and about Twitter and about YouTube, and you know, the dimensions are frightening, okay? To give you some idea, Twitter right now, 200 million people, uniquely, 200 million people a month, 65 million tweets a day, okay? No one in the world, of course, can manage or absorb this kind of information. So that's one of the things that we'll talk about, is what's the strategy to try and survive in this world, and how, you know, can you go forward? But what's important to understand is that these big sites are just so overwhelming that they don't really help us to understand this situation. So conversation is a little bit misleading, okay? 65 million tweets, those aren't conversations, those are broadcasts. And so when we look at a lot of this stuff that's going on out there, it's very much one-to-many. It's like Roger Ebert has 150,000 people following him. They want to hear what he has to say. I doubt seriously if he wants to hear what they have to say, but we'll see, you know, we'll see. So understand that this is not a two-way system yet, but what can be built are these two-way conversations, and those are value-laden. Those are the most important conversations that are going on. So what's changing? Well, first of all, as I said, these are not trivial things, okay? What's happening out there is substantive conversations are going on with your customers, with your clients, with your business partners, and they're talking about you and your business. And so you need to be aware of that. You need to be a part of that. What's more important is that the web is permitting groups to assemble that have wonderful characteristics. They're self-identifying, so they really are connected as a group or as an organization. And they use these connections now to empower themselves to become smarter consumers, to learn more about shared interests, to evaluate products and services, and to also, beyond evaluation, to actually not only criticize, but to take collective action. And so when you see these situations now where the web has moved against some of these ideas and things like that, you understand what the power is of having, tens of thousands or millions of people all of a sudden have a completely different impression about something that you've spent 10, 20, 30 years trying to develop as a brand image. Brand image, again, doesn't belong to us anymore. Now, one of the things that's interesting about a place like YouTube, with, 1 trillion videos right now, is that it's so big that it's not very meaningful. But what we're seeing is that it's being parsed, okay? It's being sliced and diced, okay, into distinct channels. So this happens to be YouTube EDU. Now, imagine, we were talking about the University of Illinois. Imagine a school that thinks that it's creating videos to tell its story and it puts those up on its website. Guess what? That's not where anybody in the way of a prospective student is going. What they want to hear is from the horse's mouth. So they go to something like YouTube EDU and they see what 52 students in the engineering program at the U of I have to say about it, and that's the exact basis that they make their decisions on. So these channels are becoming very important, and they're becoming manageable as they become more direct. If you're a business, you spend a lot of money building an instruction manual, maybe put some instruction manuals out there in the field. You think anybody watches them? No, they go to a program like Howcast, and our students actually create every month videos for Howcast, and these are instructional videos about anything and everything that's out there. And so businesses need to understand that the people are learning to use their products and services by some guy who put up a video who said, here's how you fix a toilet, or here's how some of these are really ridiculous examples, but a lot of them are substantive information presented in a very informal and useful fashion, and the volume is staggering. So if you want to talk about something like this, 25 million people a month are going to just this one site to find out how to do whatever. And you would think maybe they would go to the Kodak site, or they might go to a site to learn from the employer or the manufacturer. No, that's not how they do it. They want to hear from peers. They want to hear from people that are equally situated as they are. So the first thing that I want to deal with today is if you understand that we need to go find these groups. We can't bring them to us anymore. So we have to find where these groups are assembling, where these organizations are assembling out there on the web. And so there are sites like Meetup. And Meetup is very interesting. Meetup is a very simple premise. It started a few years ago, and it said, wouldn't it be nice if I knew the people in my neighborhood that were interested in Dalmatians, or the people that were interested in French cooking? And so it became initially an online assemblage of these communities, sliced and diced by interest, okay? What's interesting right now is that it's already morphing to physical meetings, and how powerful is that? How powerful is it to say, these people live 3 blocks from me, and I never knew that they were as interested in learning about the best Catholic school as I was, or learning about any interest area. And so we're seeing that the web is now enabling physical actions. The web is now driving behavior. And again, what it's permitting to go on is people are being able to identify and connect in a much more efficient and effective fashion with their interests, with their common causes, with their beliefs and what they're looking for. They're forming tribes. That's very simple. So tribe is a sort of another useful formulation for this. Now, in Chicago, we're really proud to have a company called Groupon, okay? What is it? Well, Groupon, if you don't know what it is, basically is you go to a restaurant, if you're Groupon, and you say, if I get 20 people to come on Monday night, when restaurants are traditionally dark or, underutilized, how about if we give them a half-price second entree, or how about if we give them a 2-for-1? But it has to be 20 people, okay? And then Groupon puts that up on their site, and 20 seconds later, 20 people sign up for it, and they go that Monday night, and the restaurant does well because it's created new customers, and the customers do well. And when you multiply that by a zillion different kinds of interest, but here's what's so remarkable. We have people on our staff who haven't gone bowling in 20 years. They go bowling now. Why? Because their friends call up and say, if we get 3 more people, we can go to Diversity Bowl and we can bowl for $3 a line. How great is that? So it's changing behavior, and it's changing the way that people are operating. And it's very interesting because it's a collective use of the consumer's power in a way that's a very, trivial way, but a very powerful way as businesses grow. This is a fund that basically is a website where you put up an idea and you say, if I get enough people to provide little money, small dollars, I'll be in a position to kick off my new idea or my new venture. So it's a very creative way of doing financing. This is completely bizarre. This is a site, TopCoder, that runs competitions of computer programmers all over the world. And they say, hey, we have a new challenge. We got 48 hours, and there's a $25,000 prize. And by the way, 200,000 people then begin programming for your $25,000 prize, which is probably a pretty effective tool. And those results are delivered, and you've had the collective wisdom of millions and millions of people as you start to roll these things up. So all of these are groups. All of these are assemblages with common interests that provide interesting new opportunities. They even have a site for old people like us, okay? So this is only for boomers, okay? Eons, and it's a harsh place, but let me tell you that I'm not even comfortable there. But this generational thing is very interesting. These are the sea changes. These are the generational changes that are coming down the pipe in terms of new technologies and new kinds of things that are going to just change our world. So apart from groups and events, the second really astonishing thing that's going on the web is how often and how much evaluation, endorsement, and criticism is going on with sites like Yelp or sites like Dig or sites like Delicious. And all of those basically are favorite. All of those are sites that basically take any service, product, restaurant, club, anything you name, and express opinions that are then aggregated. And very frankly, once that's out there, there's no way to reverse that. There's no way to change it. So, it's a very powerful thing. And, more and more you'll hear in examples of behavior where somebody will say, well, I was about to go to that hotel, and I Googled it or I checked it out on one of these sites, and 3 people out of maybe 1 trillion, okay? Because you know the rule. The rule is if 3 happy customers talk about your service, you'd be lucky, okay? But 20 people who had a bad experience will make it their business to tell everybody, okay? So imagine the world's largest megaphone taking that statistic and making everybody's life miserable. That's sort of what we're dealing with in today's economy with all these evaluations. Now, I said before also that another big category, a category I want to briefly familiarize you with, is aggregation and productivity tools. We're drowning in this stuff, okay? We're drowning in this stuff, and how do we make sense of it? So you're going to see more and more of these desktop utilities. We call them dashboards, for want of a better term. And what they permit us to do is aggregate all these different things that we wish we had the time to check into. We wish we could keep track of. We actually have some obligation to do that if we want to know what's going on with our business. But these sites do an interesting thing. They help us to filter this glut of information, this staggering glut. And this is maybe my favorite site, okay? So Newser is a site that is a very opinionated site. It's really one guy, okay? And this one guy has decided, here's what I'm interested in today in the way of news, in the way of information. And the motto is the best part of this site, okay? And what's the motto? Read less, know more, okay? What does that mean? That means, all right, it's his view, okay? But I can absorb that in a couple of minutes, okay? And I'll know something about what he thinks are the most important topics. That's a huge save for me, okay? I'd rather do that than print off 42 articles that I hope I'll read on the next plane and I never get around to reading, right? And they are, just have joined another pile. So this idea of filtering, very important, very crucial to what's going on. Google has a tool that does this too. It lets you paste up the front pages of a lot of websites. This is a very interesting technology. what happens here is that as a story emerges on the web, it starts in the upper left-hand corner, and then in the course of the day, as it becomes less discussed or less current, it moves off and down to the right. You can build your own site here, and any topic you're interested in. You could take entertainment, you could take politics, and it'll go through the entire web, and it will take every story and it will display it for you in this dynamic fashion. It's just a great thing to have up in your lobby sometime, and you watch the world pass by using this technology. Now, search, we all know about Google, but search is changing too, and this is really one of the biggest changes that we're going to see in the next year. What's happening with search? Well, what's happening with search is we're leaving search, the search culture of finding things, and we're headed toward this recommender culture. We're having the ability, frankly, and you've seen this ad, this is result 1 out of 10 million results. Great, I wish you the best on Google finding one of those. Now, Bing, which is one of the important, new search tools out there, has tried to counter-program that. They've said, no, we have a decision engine. We're not going to drown you in a zillion results. We're going to try to give you tools to help you in this process. But the truth is, search is over. Search is over, and what we're going to be doing now is dealing with the recommendations of peers, okay? So we start with Google. We have Yahoo, if anybody remembers about Yahoo or what Yahoo is. We have Bing. Now, the second these things emerge, the web morphs them, okay? So here's Bing, but here's a search engine that compares Bing to Google. Scour compares all 3 of those search engines, and you should definitely do this. You should put your name in and try to figure out how it comes to pass that on 3 of these engines you're differently ranked, you're differently located, they generate different information about you. Try to figure out what you look like on the web, okay? And it's sort of fun, by the way, to take your name and Google your name plus IRS, just as a sort of a Google result you never want, okay? So phase 1 was static information. We're already moving past that. We're talking now about real-time results, things that are occurring in real time, not simply things that have been posted. So Collecta is an engine that does that in terms of real-time search. Radian is a listening product that large corporations are using so that when their brand or their products are mentioned anywhere in the world, this highlights that information for them. And believe me, it's quite effective to immediately turn around and respond to a consumer who has an issue or a question about you in the instant, and they can't imagine how that happened, okay? And these kinds of tools permit us to surveil the web and to watch what's going on. This is another fun thing to do, Specify. It's a visual search tool. Now this permits you to say, give me all the images on the web, so I recommend you try this too. Now I recently gave a talk at CBS, and Bruno Cohn, who's the CEO over at CBS, was there. And so what I did was I used Specify to search Bruno Cohn's name, but unfortunately, that cockamamie movie came out about Bruno the fashion designer, okay? So although Bruno made it here, the truth is there were a lot of rear ends and a lot of other goofy kinds of things. So, again, you're sort of at risk here. You never know what's going to come up when you do these kinds of searches. Hunch is another generation. Hunch is saying, here's 10 thoughts that I have, and give me an educated guess. Aardvark asks your friends. How bizarre is that? Mahala is real people doing search in response to your inquiries. Now there are search engines that only search blogs. There are search engines that only search tweets. There's a lot of different things going on, and we're just getting started. Okay, we're just getting started because we're going to see all kinds of new platforms, all kinds of new ways that we're going to access this information. And we're going to use geo-positing for everything. So we're going to know right now your tweets. If you choose yes, your tweets will now come with a location indicator of where you are. We're doing something, and I want to take a second because this grew out of conversations with Commissioner Reyes and with the mayor. We're very excited about a program we just started as part of Chicago's Career Tech Initiative, and that's something that we're very proud of. We've taken our first class and just started training a group of unemployed folks in the city who used to earn between $25,000 and $75,000. And what we're doing is we're bolting on to their perfectly wonderful resumes some cyber skills. so that they can now go in with a straight face and say, oh yeah, I can run a blog, I know about wikis, I know about these things. And these are tremendously talented people. And so it's really exciting because this kind of cyber education is just what the governor was speaking about. So new attitudes, a new work ethic, new opportunities to get out there and take advantage of these enabling technologies. Because today you can have all the skills in the world, but if you don't have the tools, they really don't matter. So I want to leave you with a couple of quick things. First, this is a fun site, okay? This is a little ad agency in a box, okay? So Wordle is a very powerful little tool. We used to hire ad agencies, and I brought for Jay something which I'll show you in a minute. But take your resume, take somebody's website, take a letter somebody wrote you, put it into Wordle, and it builds word clouds, okay? And word clouds are just very interesting, very challenging kinds of things. And so if I was giving an event, if I wanted to make a poster, if I wanted to do something like that, this thing does it instantly, and it takes anything you want, and this happens to be one from the City Club, and I made Jay your own version of it. So what's happening is a very interesting thing, and again, I recommend that you do this, okay? Because we don't know how it works, and that's what's so interesting about technology these days, okay? Something's going on. We don't have a clue as to how it's working, but it's a lot of fun, okay? It's a lot of fun to play with. We have some new technology at Flashpoint. We've turned on our T-shirts now, so they basically come out and bite you. We're working with the CPS about developing tools called the Classroom of the Future. We've even got talking brochures now, which are very exciting, and I think I have one here. So basically, if you can imagine the future of brochures is not going to be simply print, but it actually is video imprint, okay? So talking brochures, okay? This is going to be what every magazine looks like now. And of course, this is updatable, this is totally portable. It's a very interesting thing. You can select using these little buttons, different content. So you're going to see this more and more used as marketing tools. But for our students, it's just one of the tools that they are learning to use as they continue to go forward. And then lastly, I want to tell you how politics is going to change. And of course, this would be the right forum. All right, so, and Paul is here. He's keeping a very close eye. So Obama did a pretty great job of dealing with small competitors, okay, and small contributors. That's probably what got him elected in terms of fundraising. But how would you like to be a business that was competing in this context, okay? How would you like to be somebody who you required all these things, the yeses, and your competitor required nothing, okay? And that's what technology does. Technology just changes the world. So if you can imagine a dice, okay, a single die, this big, I'm going to show you something called Square. And Square is a complete credit card authorization system that plugs into your phone. There's no contract. There's no anything. This is now a complete authorization system. So imagine in terms of politics, in terms of, I was thinking about Father Ryan, in terms of the collection plate, nobody can say, I don't have change, right? Because we know they all have a credit card, okay? So in the field, your babysitter will now take credit cards, okay? Everybody will use the Square. It's totally powerful, it's a totally new technology. So in theaters, in the field, at events, we'll be able to use this, no contract, no connection, no wires, and in countries that don't even have banking systems, we'll leapfrog right over them. And so just as cellular technology did that, now the Square will do it. And by the way, it's free. It's free. In volume, it costs nothing to manufacture. All the power comes from swiping your credit card right through this little slot. So, and I'll just go back and show you again. That's the whole thing. You're seeing it here, okay? That's the Square. And last but not least, again, I just want to say congratulations to the Blackhawks as well. And we feel like this is our front door, and that's the CBS Jumbotron, which we borrow, and we had the parade in front of us. So, look, this couldn't be more exciting. I'm really pleased to be here. This is a tremendous opportunity. I'm trying to be respectful of your time. But take a look at all the sites that we've listed on the sheet of paper. Try to understand and sort of expose yourself to this, because this is really where our future is headed, and this is where our kids are headed for sure. So it's critically important that, you not sort of be a retrograde, but that you participate in this and enjoy it as much as we do. So thank you very much, Doug.
If you have any questions, normally we say write them out, but obviously we can't use paper and pencil anymore, or a pen. Howard has developed a mental telepathy, so just go like this and he'll figure it out. And there'll be a prize, an autographed picture of George Orwell. Okay, from Joy Saxon, what happens if... Oh, I know. Only at the City Club do you get this kind of stuff. Miss Saxon, what happens if a robber steals your square?
Well, the square has nothing in it, so the square has to go connect you to an account. And so it's only when it's connected to your particular account that it works. So it's just a piece of plastic. And so if somebody takes it, they take it. It's no different than losing your credit card. But the authorization system is such that you plug it in, you press your cell phone, it goes to your site, and then you swipe the card, and it checks to see that that person's account is authorized to pay the money, and then it collects the money.
So if they steal your cell phone, then you've got to call like you would with a credit card?
No, you still have to sign into your account, so it's totally protected. Yeah. Other questions? Yes?
If you were a high school principal, what kind of advice would you give high school teachers?
I mean, I think that the most depressing thing we've, dealt with in the last really 5 years was, over and over again having kids say that the most boring place they go is school. It's just frightening. I think that, technology doesn't have to be expensive or really, terribly technical in order to empower kids and to make learning, much more effective. We're seeing a tremendous amount of research now that everybody is going to learn in the same way. It's all going to be experiential. It's all going to be interactive. It's all going to be immersive. That's game technology. That's what we're teaching. But it's very interesting because more and more of our kids, even in the game program, they're not building first-person shooters. They're building the classroom of the future. They're building training systems for young doctors to do differential diagnosis. They're training profiling systems for TSA because of the turnover. So I think that there's a lot of things that we can do within the school system to give these kids some ownership. We had a program, about Experientia. We had a program that gave kids ownership. And once you give them ownership and responsibility, it's amazing. At Flashpoint, we spend a lot of time, making the English and the math go down, like cod liver oil, okay? Well, in part, it's easy to do when you're making a movie, okay? And you say, well, guess what? If you can't write, your script isn't worth anything. If you can't budget, you'll never get your project done. That's math, but believe me, that's very palatable math. That's the kind of thing. So we just have to reposition these things so that the kids take some ownership. And I think storytelling is the biggest single thing. I think that storytelling is really how we communicate, and it's how in the future, these kids are going to become and be educated, really.
Naomi, where are you? Raise your hand. Oh. Works for us. How is the shift to new media tools, such as the ones you mentioned, affecting neighborhoods that don't have the resources and are victims of digital divide?
We go by libraries. We go by businesses. I was, in Philadelphia not too long ago, and middle of the afternoon, you see kids sitting by the side of the road, and you wonder what they're doing with their laptops. Well, they're piggybacking on Wi-Fi that they find, okay? So the digital divide is important. The city has as much of a leg up as anybody does on getting broadband, and the state is doing a lot of broadband stuff too. So we'll get there with connectivity. But kids are very smart about how to get connected to the web. I don't fear for any of the kids being able to do that. I think that again, if they're motivated, and they are motivated, then they will figure out ways. I'll tell you just one last small story, and that is in some of these African countries, you drive by and you see them with cell phones, And you wonder what's going on. You know, first, how can they afford the cell phones? And the answer is that's the first device they get, you know, probably more than food or anything else. But they actually have learned how to do communications and how to do things using the interconnectivity of cell phones that we didn't know over here, that we don't know about some of these capabilities. So, you know, I would believe in invention, and I would believe that kids will find their way to this media more and more. You know, we can solve it, we can help solve it, but the truth is that that's not the barrier. The barrier is giving them encouragement and giving them a structure where once they make the effort and are successful, that we acknowledge that and reward it.
One more, Joyce.
Okay, the question is, how many students does Flashpoint now have? So we started 2 years ago in September 2007 with about 100 students. We have about 500 students now. And our capacity is about twice that. We have our facility, which is right next to City Hall, but we also have a large part of the merchandise mart on the 19th and 20th floor. So we have some expansion capability. And we also have a stage at CBS, so we're really connected with a lot of parts of the city. And of course, we've just announced this merger with Robert De Niro, so we're also going to be eventually expanding to New York. One more? Sorry.
How international is your program now for over students and things like that?
Well, right now, it's not so international. What's happened is we've had overtures already from Ireland, interestingly enough, from India, from Abu Dhabi, from Dubai. And what they've said is that a lot of different companies from the U.S. have gone over there. You know, if you want to do healthcare, you license the Cleveland Clinic or what have you. They came to us and they said, you know, here's an interesting thing. There are no old brands in new media. You guys are the new brand. We would like you to come build us a curriculum for the Arab world or for India or things like that. So we're excited about that. The Tribeca, you know, Film Festival is now not only in New York but also in Doha, which is in Qatar, just at the end of October. And media is international. It's global. I mean, that's what's so exciting about training these kids, because they're going to be able to go anywhere and do anything. So, all right, thank you.